I cannot thank you enough for clicking on this video today. It is your girl, Gypsy Rose Deville, dropping another chapter of my free unpublished book. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, like and share this video, and click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my content. We have now come to the end of the road. This is the final chapter. If you haven't done so already, you must go back and read the previous chapters, or you will have no clue where any of the things I'm about to say in this final chapter come from. Part 1 gives you a chance to get to know me a little better, of course, because I want you to understand me and understand my thought process and the type of rabbit holes this conspiracy theory mindset tends to fall down, and how I seem to bring myself back out of it, coming to conclusions that are spiritually led. And part 2 begins the research of my zodiac sign, the Capricorn. And in my studies and researching my zodiac sign, I ended up finding all sorts of hidden history about race and religion. Before proceeding, as always, I warned at the end of part 1 that if you're easily offended by concepts that oppose your own beliefs, please do not proceed. I have a thirst for knowledge, and when I research a subject, I look into it from every angle, whether I agree or not. Please understand the following. I am not an expert. I am not a shaman or guru. I'm not claiming to have all the answers, nor am I coming with a selfish agenda. I'm just willing to share my journey and any knowledge I've gained along the way. So with that being said, let's get right to it. This is Who Am I? The Capricorn, Secrets of the Zodiac, Part 3, Chapter 10. Time to wake the baby. Enough is enough. It is time to face some blatant truths which can no longer be ignored. But first, let's just summarize some of this information really quick. Advanced human life form may have originated on the continent of Africa. At some point, there was a mass migration of these lands to possibly Asia and Europe, forming various cultures around the globe, biologically and politically adapting to their settled environments. The most advanced of these civilizations, leaving behind historical records, mainly populated the continent of Africa, stretching across the Mediterranean, each having their own beliefs, generally including polytheism, esoteric knowledge, universal law, and spiritual wisdom. A period of invasions plagued this continent, allowing the overthrowing of those in positions of power and forcing cultures to blend. Those inhabitants being invaded often suffered enslavement, genocide, and even exile. Monotheism came into existence to be used as a political tool of power, control, and profit. With people unable to agree on the God they were serving or the doctrines being shared, spirituality is violently eradicated as religion grows through wars. Many concepts becoming demonized, prohibited as heresies, due to those in power being adamant on suppressing the minds and spirits of entire populations, more easily achieved through enforced conformity. Ancient knowledge is lost over time, allowing the official rewriting of history and corruption of truth in spiritual doctrines. Furthermore, race is one of the biggest lies ever told in history. Even if it existed at some point, after centuries of cultural blending, in our current reality, race does not exist. Only variations in shades of skin and hair textures, as well as the culture shared. Yet, race has been one of the most prominent tools in the separation and classification of humans, along with religion. The agenda went even further to create mindsets that automatically equate darkness to bad or evil, fueling the concept of racism as the darker demographics begin suffering. This would also assist in the shaming of any subjects that could be considered quote-unquote dark, yet, once investigated, proves to unlock hidden truths and secrets of the earth. And if all of this wasn't bad enough, we've been stripped of our identities and birthrights to only have them replaced with a false God and Christ, only further oppressing the masses with guilt, shame, and self-condemnation. Those stories of inky, true or false, represents the false concept of God as we have been taught through history and religion. Inky represents the option of awakening of the mind to its higher self, the importance of experience, and the realization of divinity. An archetype, just as Jesus Christ, both willing to share the knowledge which one needs in order to tap into a power within. Yet one character became demonized and the other idolized. The overall purpose for either story was to expose the dividing of the human race and the intentions of destroying our minds. However, we all came from one, and one day we will all return, all the while having the power within to change our current quote unquote reality here on earth at any time, easily achieved by simply tapping into the Christ within, compliments of the true creator. The secret of the Capricorn is now revealed. Capricorn represents creator. The Capricorn was placed amongst the stars specifically for seekers of truth, to remind us of who we are and where we come from. Named as a zodiac to represent our true identities, dualistic nature, and God-given powers, all of which have been erased from human consciousness through the original brainwashes, race, and religion. The Capricorn is half goat and half fish, embodying both earth and water, two opposing elements that perfectly complement each other, allowing life to exist. The concept of Capricorn being a hybrid creature is exposing our true identities as humans on earth, part physical beings and part spiritual. A clear agenda has been created to separate us from this truth, forcing us to identify with our race, physical, or religion, spiritual, which also explains why the water element of the sign has been eradicated over time, demoted from once a ferocious sea beast to being depicted as just a gluttonous earthly billy goat. Leading with the feminine energy, Capricorn represents force and form, which can be translated to thought and action, creation. This zodiac sign takes us back to the beginning and represents the end, universal consciousness. Creation comes from the universal consciousness, making you the vessel in which it is birthed, co-creator. We have forgotten who we truly are, which is a divine spark of the creator, responsible for the continuation of creation. We have God-given powers and a divine birthright, which we are able to tap into at any time of our choosing through a concept as simple as awakening. Just as I have been through some of the worst, I've also been through some of the best of times. And I have done some horrible things as well as I've done some good. I was forced to experience the opposing sides of various spectrums in order to reach this level of understanding. I am the embodiment of duality, the essence of the Capricorn. I am who I am. And I know now that I was born this way for a reason. And remember what I mentioned before, that if we were to each truly research our zodiac signs, we would actually find the keys to unlocking the 12 gates to the city. Well, I meant exactly what I said. Each sign has a coded secret within, specific to your true purpose here in this three-dimensional state of being at this specific time. Each still rooted in the same foundational truth of our divine power and birthright. Capricorn exposes the lengths in which those in power took just to ensure the suppression of our true divine natures, eventually proving to be successful too in enslaving the minds of the masses. Further research of the other signs will unveil the other successful brainwashes related to familial ties, politics, education, race, sexuality, judicial systems, and more. And again, these signs are also energies in which we all experience and embody. harboring answers to our life's purpose, and once unveiled, will cause instant transformation. And if you remember, we spoke about Capricorn energy at the beginning of part 2. By now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself that I'm just as crazy as I admitted from the beginning. Again, I did not include even half of the things I've learned through my research, but I have no doubts that you're probably overwhelmed with the little bit already shared. I definitely gained a new perspective about everything. Truth can be hard to swallow at times, especially when you don't like what's discovered. Still, we cannot erase history, but we must acknowledge it. Just because you do not like the story being told does not make it any less so. And I will admit that at first I was angry. No wonder I was so miserable before, since apparently I've been living in a prolonged sleepwalking zombie state due to total separation from my true self. Brainwashed from birth to believe so many lies about the world, myself, my God, and even my history, even though I rebelled as long as I could before finally surrendering in defeat. Finally, I had no choice but accepting that the truth about reality is that it does not exist, and the history I was taught is just a pack of lies agreed upon. This is probably what angered me the most, learning that my struggles were by design. Angry at my former teachers who studied history, still choosing to teach the lies. Angry at my former pastors who all studied theology, still choosing to mislead their flocks. Angry with all the world leaders who could care less about the citizens they govern as they continue to aid senseless wars and the oppression of the masses. Angry with my ancestors who all allowed their history and spiritual knowledge to be erased and corrupted, maybe voluntarily aiding in the enslavement of their own in order to save themselves. And even angry at myself for 100,000 reasons, but mainly for falling victim to the brainwashes, instead of standing on what I always knew to be truth, my divine nature. However, after all that I have learned, the one thing that I realized, or should I say, the most important thing that I've come to understand, is that none of it matters. Life is about the journey towards purpose. Everyone has a reason that they are existing, but most remain too distracted to ever realize what that reason may be. We've allowed ourselves to focus our precious time and energy on things that only further separate us. Getting so caught up in trying to pinpoint historical events and cultures responsible for our current state that we are stuck reliving a past that no longer exists. So caught up in religion that we don't even take a second to actually evolve spiritually. Even worse, we're so focused on the things we can see, like the color of one's skin, that we've forgotten we all bleed the same red on the inside. We are all spiritual beings in physical form, originating from the one. There is only one race, the human race. If Capricorn represents flexibility, as explained previously, then that includes tolerance for the sake of harmony. Would you be impressed with a rainbow of only one color? The differences is what keeps life interesting, making the picture a masterpiece. Besides, somebody please explain to me, how can you hate an entire demographic of people for whatever reason without knowing one thing about them as individuals beyond what you are judging? Most people are living their lives each day, just trying their best to survive, not with malicious intent. So we must stop projecting our internal miseries through mob mentalities, judging circumstances that are not our own, mainly because this is not our damn job or business. There is enough to focus on if focusing within. The entire world could change overnight if we all just took one day to completely focus on ourselves, taking time out to learn how to tap into our true divine selves, which can only be done through inner alchemy. Life is all about learning through experience. There is no right or wrong in our experience, especially since in order to have one, duality must exist. We must accept duality rather than judging one side or the other. All is a part of the one. Our current existence in this world is our choice. Choose to look within and find your true purpose here on earth. There are no rules because there is no reality, only individual perceptions of individual circumstances. And I am sure there are those reading this and thinking, chaos. You know what? You might be right. And to that I say, who cares? The current structures of the world have most walking in a fog of misery, merely trying to make it through another day. This is not living. This is not even existing, nor will this lead to finding a path of purpose, which should be the goal. Also understand, if we were to all focus on our own individual paths of purpose effortlessly, we would begin to live by the golden rule. Treat others how you would want to be treated, creating a natural harmony, more contagious than any virus ever invented. It is also our responsibility to pay it forward. Each one teach one, each one reach one, a saying I created as my own personal motto and mission. This is how we will eventually put all the pieces of the puzzles back together and truly uplift one another towards higher purpose. One who finds purpose is not looking for any type of self-serving rewards in return. This only happens in ego consciousness. It's not about money, fame, or anything other than fulfilling the purpose. But you will do well to know that anyone walking in true purpose is not without any of those things. Because what you have to offer the world is coveted, whether you realize it or not, no matter how insignificant you may perceive it to be. Also, this will always lead right back to your original purpose here on earth, to create. It's not about having a plan, money, network, education, or any of the other crazy roadblocks that we like to falsely convince ourselves exist. Simply start by taking time out long enough to learn who you are, which will ultimately lead to finding true purpose. In doing so, you will begin determining your needs and wants, which can all be obtained through the process of mastering the mind. Far more easily said than done, but once achieved, you will find that there are no limitations. Just as the saying goes, ask and you will receive. It comes down to paying close attention to thoughts while focusing energy. When wanting something to manifest, it's not about knowing the who, what, when, where, or why. First, simply declare it and allow your creative spirit to imagine every aspect or detail of what it may look like, how you'll react, to even how you may feel. Completely eradicate any negative thoughts pertaining to the past, fears of what may happen in the future, or how to make it happen. Let it go, feeling relief that it's already done, remaining in this present moment of imagination, and keep this feeling. Never live your life worrying about tomorrow or reliving yesterday, because there is only today. There is only now. Spend each day investing that same energy in achieving your goals. One element that is often lost in the translation of letting go would be due diligence. This requires spending time and energy on making any preparations for that which you wish to bring forth, writing down ideas, cultivating skills, researching interests, dressing the part and changing your routine, maybe even your social circle, are all things that can be starting points in a mission. This way, you are ready when presented opportunities. And this should not feel like work either. Your purpose will be birthed from passion, aligning with your natural skills, talents, and interests. So, when focusing on personal development for true purpose, all tasks will be those that seem effortless and exciting. I am actually appreciative of the pandemic, believe it or not. And before you go berserk, please let me explain. You know how the Bible speaks about numerous prophets going into the desert? Well, as you saw in my notes earlier, deserts can also be representative of isolation and minimalism. See, both Moses and Jesus supposedly went into the desert and found revelation. Well, that is what the pandemic did for me. While living my simple lifestyle in isolation from the rest of the world, I was so focused on my path of enlightenment that I was not affected in any way by what went on outside my home. I was not even tempted to entertain social media because I only wanted to view content that was going to feed me mentally and spiritually. I needed to be alone, away from all distractions, giving myself time to resolve all of my internal turmoil, forgiving not only others, but myself, and truly healing from anything still suppressed within my spirit. It was like I was placed in a cocoon to later emerge as the majestic black butterfly I was always destined to be. There was never anything wrong or bad about me. I've just always been an individual who embraces walking in her authenticity. I was never meant to be like anyone else. I am perfectly unique for a reason. My allergy to authority stems from the fact that I was never meant to be ruled. Also, gaining understanding as to why I never felt the need to judge people based on their demographic or why so many gravitated to me. Somehow, I must have always known that we're all connected. Further explaining my misery throughout my lifetime, especially in any attempts to conform. The oppression pressed upon me just because I was born female was never supposed to have been, which is why I resented it. I was raised by polarized opposite energies, both being earth signs of grounding. Makes me one who perfectly embodies both with the responsibility of mastering balance. I have both the divine masculine and divine feminine within me. Both are to be embraced as this is what makes me who I am. I was annoyed with institutionalized teachings because I always knew on a spiritual level, there's more important things I should have been learning. And religion only further fed my frustrations with its constant judgment, inflicting self-condemnation while enforcing the dumbest rules. Somehow, I came into this world with the true knowledge of who I am, and it was in my attempts of suppression that my miseries were birthed. I guess you could just blame it on a glitch in the matrix, screwing up my programming. What is a man without his mind? So if you do not take anything else away from the manuscript I have shared with you, please take heed to this. Everything starts in the mind. As I stated before, I won't pretend like changing your life, which especially requires changing your mindset, is anywhere near an easy task. But the hardest part is making the choice and sticking to it. Not allowing yourself to be dragged down misery lane due to situations in life, the medias, or the people surrounding you. Our life can be summed up as a culmination of choices. Therefore, it is important to master your mind in order to see true change in your world. To master the mind, you must understand how it works in accordance with universal law. I know there are millions of books and programs claiming to share and teach this knowledge while receiving millions in profits, but I digress. What pisses me off is the fact that after taking your money, they leave out one or two key factors, making all the difference in the total concept and its application to your life. And even worse, once broken down, the fundamentals are not even as complicated as they like to make it seem. It is of utmost importance that you first realize the mind does not know the difference between reality and imagination, because both are rooted in perception, stemming from emotions. The understanding of how you think, how you feel, along with the willingness to understand why, is going to be your first point of focus within. This is imperative in order for you to narrow down those things that hinder you most. Universal law is what governs your current reality and can be adjusted at will when the principles are understood. It is equally important to understand what motivates a soul, what causes us to develop certain mindsets, goals of attainment, and why we do the things we do. I know I promise not to beat you over the head with numerology, but here is a quick equation that may do you some justice in life. The 1 is a summation of the 3 and the 7. The 1 representing universal consciousness, which is a culmination of the 3, which equates to the Trinity, and the 7, which represents universal law. 3 and 7 equals 10, and in numerology, you always break it down to a single digit. 1 plus 0 equals 1. The 1, universal consciousness. Defining the soul and its motives. What is a person? Stemming from the root word persona, which is also the root word for personality. It means mask, a covering for all or part of the face, worn as a disguise or to amuse or terrify other people. A manner or expression that hides one's true character or feelings, a pretense, to conceal something from view. And synonyms are to disguise, to hide, veil, or false face. We often develop personalities as a substitute for taking the time to learn who we truly are, preferring to create an image we want others to see us as instead. We are not just flesh, but spiritual beings in physical form. Although we live our daily lives in the physical realm, we are also operating through a spiritual existence. The soul is an energetic beam of light that is the true you, reincarnated to learn, raise its level of consciousness, and transmute negative experiences into positive energy. The soul requires a symbiotic relationship to achieve peace and balance. Energy is not good or evil. Polarized opposites are needed for anything to be experienced. The goal of life, journey of the soul, is purposed for higher consciousness by learning through experience. Consciousness is a culmination of wisdom and will. Now, does that not sound a lot like thought and action, which is what? Creation. So consciousness is creation, which means our minds can create. We have the power to create. So if we have the power of creation or manifestation and everything starts in the mind, then you have no option but to conclude that the world you are currently living was created by you. So that means you also have the power to change it. How do you change your world, you ask? By first understanding how you manifested your reality in the first place. And this is through a concept called the law of attraction. There are 7 principles in this law: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. So without spending too much time on this subject, I'm just going to give you a quick summation of each of these principles. So there's mentalism, and this is basically the mindful awareness of how you think, intentional focusing on your own thoughts. There's correspondence, literally the harmony and balance within yourself. The harmony and balance within one's soul generally stems from one being at peace with their mind, their emotions, and themselves. Then there's vibration. Vibration is the frequency in which your energy vibrates. And the higher your vibration, the more powerful your energy. There's polarity. Polarity is duality. It's the yin and yang. Then there's the rhythm. This is how your energy flows. If you're in harmony and balance within your own soul, then usually your rhythm is very harmonic and hypnotic as well. This being the key principle behind law of attraction, because it's the direct result of the energy behind our daily conscious and subconscious thoughts. So if correspondence is the harmony within you that creates a rhythm and how you flow, then the vibration is how powerful that energy and flow is. Okay. So then there's cause and effect. There's a cause and effect in any and everything in life, and that is called karma. And then last but not least, there's gender. Everything has a masculine or feminine principle to it. So in any attempts of manifestation, you must take into account all 7 principles, because the way you are vibrating, your energy, how you're thinking, if you are fighting against your own soul or against your own polarity, if you're not recognizing the cause and effect of your previous actions or your future actions, all of these things must be accounted for when attempting to manifest anything. And this is always an amazing starting point for you, because it forces you to retrain your brain to address your stinking thinking, because the soul is always attempting to be a better version of itself. 7 virtues: courage, temperance, generosity, greatness of soul, proper response to anger, friendliness, wit, or charm. 7 gifts of grace: wisdom, understanding, counsel, knowledge, piety, fortitude, and spiritual enlightenment. Now let's talk about the 7 deadly sins, or soul devourers, or mind controllers. These are the sins that sever the soul from grace, all beginning in the mind, therefore only having as much power as being given. These are what cause us to over-identify with our physical bodies and must be liberated. Pride, the father of evil, the original sin, representative of the very essence and source of other capital sins, also known as the anti-God state, a position in which the ego and the self become in direct opposition with God, not always about having high self-esteem, but rather lacking humility and knowledge, pride that blinds. Lust, intense desire that clouds judgment with impurity of thought. Envy, jealousy, overpowering sadness or resentment due to another's success or reputation. Wrath, uncontrolled feelings of anger, rage, and hatred that is often revealed in self-destructive vengeance or violence. Sloth, idleness, ineffectiveness, laziness, and the unwillingness to take action, representative of spiritually omitting your responsibilities. Greed, the corrupted pursuit of earthly possessions, second most powerful representative of the very essence of evil, along with pride. And then there's gluttony, the abusive overconsumption or overindulgence of anything. 7 most basic fears: poverty, criticism, ill health, loss or lack of love, old age, death, and failure. Most common earthly desires, or most common motives that inspire thought and physical action, generally perpetuated by the 7 basic fears: sexual expression and love, physical food, spiritual, mental, and physical self-expression, perpetuation of life after death, power over others, for knowledge, to imitate others, or to excel others. So before we proceed, let's just summarize. A person is basically the vision or the visual we put out there to the world, who we want everyone to believe we are. But we always have to remember that we are spiritual beings in physical form. As physical beings, we all have some of the same basic fears or attributes we wish to be characterized by, or things that we desire. So when you look at the gifts of grace and the virtues, these are things or attributes that we should be achieving to be more like. These are the things that we should be utilizing as tools in our daily walks of life. But they tend to get overshadowed by those 7 basic fears or deadly sins or earthly desires. And this is what allows the brainwashes. And let's now talk about some of the most common brainwashes or the theories that can form the walks of life. First, there's psychosis of wealth. And this is just where superiority classifications and identities are determined based on how much money you have. And 2 myths that linger in the back of the minds of those brainwashed by this theory is that following the elite's plan will eventually lead you to becoming wealthy. But typically, the average person just falls into a resented, dead-end career and a miserable lifestyle. And the other myth is that if you think for yourself, you will be poor. Next, there's forced conformity. And this is when failure to conform is penalized. It's basically the suppression of individualization and uniqueness in mind, actions, and presence. And a myth that lingers in the back of minds for those who have fallen into this brainwash is basically that different means that there is something wrong with you. Up next on this list is institutionalized thinking, which is the brainwash that creates a lack of ability for one to think for themselves. And in this brainwash, they have also accomplished the hiding of true historical and spiritual knowledge while forcing everyone to think alike. And it's also installing slave mentalities on various levels and disguised as something that the masses don't mind perpetuating. Up next, we have religion. This is another form of conformity by infecting the mind with suppressive philosophies, creating submissiveness and subordination, and honoring guilt as a virtue. This is an example of utilizing fear-based tactics in attempts of creating a victimized mindset. This next theory, in my opinion, is often overlooked because in most of our mindsets, this is a given, and it's living in honor of family, which most may see as a good thing, but it depends on the level of toxicity within the circumstance. This is the burden of living up to one's family's expectations and their preferred public perception, being forced to live a life which has been pre-planned by others. So your needs and wants will never matter. Your happiness is never a factor. Next, we have unfair environmental upbringings or realities. And these are conditions ranging from poverty, forms of abuse, prejudice, exclusion, or even loss of loved ones. These are life circumstances which tend to leave one feeling lack or oppression on some level. And last but not least, we have media manipulation. And this is the utilization of media platforms to force oppressive, propagated agendas while inciting panic and fear. Now, let's switch gears. What if I told you there are 3 heavens? And Before I proceed, remember that a lot of what I'm sharing now is expanding on things that were shared in previous chapters. So if you are completely lost or if some of it isn't making sense, then I will strongly suggest you go back and listen to the previous chapters, because all of this is built upon not only my own journey, my own growth in spirituality, wisdom, and knowledge, but also from basic research done that I shared in the previous chapters. Anyway, the first heaven is the sky, what is visible to the human eye. The second, or mid-heaven, Masoranima in Greek, is what we consider space, or an area where other unearthly beings can come and go if you're a mystic. And the third heaven is what we consider the home of God, paradise. In Greek, this means garden, remember? Then there's something called the seventh dimension, and this is known as the dimension of enlightenment, the most perfect and harmonious of them all. This is what Christians actually call heaven. Both the third heaven and the seventh dimension are describing the same thing, and it's actually a level of consciousness known as the Edenic state, Christ consciousness. Do any of those words ring any bells from previous chapters? Most will never obtain this Edenic state of mind until beginning a journey of living with purpose. Now, I'm definitely going to need you to hold on to that nugget for later conversations, because this mindset is more important than anything in order to achieve anything. And you'll see why. Principle of definiteness. How many have even heard of this concept? Well, principle of definiteness is literally purpose. It is the key. This is the energy behind one's thought processes that will not allow their mind to conform or remain distracted on anything other than what this energy is focused on. Here is what the mastermind elitist figured out. Love and fear can create definiteness of purpose. They're two of the most powerful tools in that creation. However, both contain potent emotional energies having the power to reduce will and reason, as either can become a distraction. Fear is the most common killer of dreams for most, becoming the most prominent focus of our energy subconsciously. Even when speaking of our desires, fear will creep in on a subconscious level, telling you all the reasons it cannot be a reality. And we have all experienced that. And love can also hinder progress only when becoming an obsession. That's when it's no longer love, it's lust. It's a blinding obsession, clouding judgment. To love something so much that you will be willing to do anything will always prove problematic. Trust. However, fear and love being used as just the initial motivation is typical, as they both create passion. One moving in definiteness will always plan, and whether the individual is considered good or bad will matter not, as they will always prevail. One must become definite in their thoughts and plans. Know what you want and make it happen. Even in prayer, there should be no whining. Demand what you want and keep your mind busy with due diligence. One who finds definiteness of purpose while seeking peace of mind, truth, knowledge, and wisdom will always manifest their divine destiny. For anything to manifest, refer to a verse in the Bible which states, when two or more agree, which actually has nothing to do with the number of people involved, but referring to when the heart and mind agree. All starts in the mind by envisioning and declaring your desire, but you must then feel this within your heart as well. This being the lost or hidden principle, which must be present for any changes to come forth. the generative principle, or the principle which governs creation. The real term is care. What do you care about? To enhance this principle, one must also embrace a foundational attitude of gratitude. Gratitude plays a major part in manifestation because it raises vibrations naturally, and one becomes grounded in a mindset that is grateful for the opportunity to do something about those things they care about. So being the Renaissance woman that I am obsessed with architecture. And one thing that you will notice in architecture from ancient societies is something that is called the triptych, originated from the Greek word triptykos, meaning 3 layers. The triptych became a popular art form in the early Christian churches and cathedrals, depicting elaborately painted or carved panels which were hinged together. The threefold nature reflects the religious symbolism of the number 3, reflecting the Trinity. And why did I bring that up, you ask? Well, I will tell you. Because it's not enough for the mind and the heart to agree. It must be threefold. The heart and the mind must agree to go into action. This is unity consciousness. 3 factors of developing unity consciousness within self, unifying thought, emotions, and actions are as follows. It's the heart, the mind, and the gut. When it comes to the heart, what do you care about? How do you feel? When it comes to your mind, are you gaining knowledge? What do you focus on or pay attention to? Are you fearful or grateful? And when it comes to your gut, are you willing to act? What are you willing to do? And how far are you willing to go? There's also a trinity of self, mental, emotional, and physical, each having their own trinity. Then there's a spiritual trinity, the Heavenly Father, the Heavenly Mother, and Christ consciousness, which is what Christians call the Holy Spirit. True understanding reveals further depths to this being the true Trinity, mind, body, and soul. Your mind is your ego consciousness, which is masculine, how you think. Your body, your heart consciousness, which is also creation, and it's the feminine aspect. And then there's the soul, the Christos, the Christ consciousness. And that's when 2 or more agree. The mind and heart agree. So once you are able to master unified consciousness, you can then begin the stages of spiritual alchemy. And we spoke about alchemy a few chapters ago. And this is just the marriage of thought and intuitive feeling. Before proceeding, take heed to the warning that you must first learn to have desire without attachment to the outcome. In other words, let go of your control issues. There are 7 stages. There's calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and coagulation. So we're just going to do a brief overview of this because this is literally an entire book by itself. Calcination is the letting go of egotism, like self-doubt, stubbornness, letting go of your insecurities. Disillusion is dealing with your subconscious traumas from the past, which is not easy. Separation is the removing things from your life that do not align with the purpose or your authenticity. Conjunction is the accepting and integrating all parts of yourself, even those parts that you usually keep secret behind closed doors. Fermentation is the deepening of the connection with your inner voice. And then distillation is bringing forth inner realizations and integrating them into your daily life. And last but not least, you have coagulation. And that is when you're one with the divine, embracing all as one. What is a man without his mind? The game of life is about gaining control of one's mind. No one has been put on this earth just to suffer. but to become a master of this game. The premise of this game is avoiding falling victim to its brainwashes, which only inevitably leads to soul fractures that hinder transcendence. Part of the brainwash is eradicating the knowledge of our natural God-given powers and inheritances given as lifelines. You must believe in something or you will fall for anything. Your spiritual journey is your own, though, and you must come to understanding in your own time and way. But take time to think about what you are thinking about. It may sound crazy, but you are what you think. And what you think is based on what you feed your spirit daily, your daily bread. We feed our spirit through what we listen to or watch, what or how we engage, how we react based on emotions, how we treat people, words we write or speak to others, who or what we affiliate ourselves with, and even through how we view ourselves. It is important to become more focused on raising consciousness, rather than allowing the entertainment industry, medias, religion, institutionalized education, and political systems to continue in poisoning the minds of the masses. Mindful awareness is being fully and intentionally cognizant of your thoughts on a subconscious level, which most never notice is generally riddled with negativity based on how we feed our spirit. It takes being mindfully aware to ensure the mind does not become poisoned to a point of becoming brainwashed. Taking time to learn about various subjects such as numerology, astrology, unlocking consciousness, universal law, and chakras, for example, will elevate you in ways you cannot imagine or explain, further aiding in the freedom from any oppression as your mind begins focusing on views that can feed the spirit and perpetuate your journey. Your environment can play a huge part in your overall mentality, but it's a choice, and you can choose to not allow this to be a negative impact. Remember, the whole purpose of the soul's journey is to transmute negative experiences into something positive. The company you keep is a major factor as well. Everyone in your presence carries their own level of energy and vibration, which could affect you in either a positive or negative way. This by no means is an indication that you are not to associate with certain people, but rather for you to be mindfully aware of how and for how long you choose to interact with each individual. Many are without light on their path, and you may just be the one that serves in that capacity. It's not about only surrounding yourself with the good, this being the most common mistake, an unrealistic goal, limiting your experiences, and neglecting the whole purpose of life. It's all about the way in which each experience is interpreted or processed. Bad things happen all the time, but the majority of how we view a situation, our thoughts, result from how we feel. It's imperative to apply a method of emotional AAA to eliminate poisonous suppression. And the AAA of emotions is acknowledge, accept, address, or adjust. Acknowledge the feeling. How often do you say, I'm okay, when you know you aren't? Accept the feeling. How often have you tried to convince yourself you're okay? And address or adjust the feeling. How often do you stay stuck in a negative once you finally realize that you are not okay? Fear plays one of the most major roles in mental and spiritual enslavement because it causes paradigms of paralysis, meaning you are unable to evolve to your greatest potential. Fear can be easily overcome once it is understood that there is nothing to fear. Most of our fears do not even come from our own personal experience, but from someone else's. Allow fear to just be a reminder that you are still alive. Rather than internally dreading on the fear, Immediately acknowledge and accept however you are feeling. Then dare yourself to do it anyway. Learn to embrace the adrenaline rush like you once did as a curious and adventurous child. As an individual soul experiencing life, but still part of the one, the purpose of your experience is so that it can be shared. Good or bad, each experience must be shared in truth and wisdom with as many as can be reached. Each one teach one, each one reach one. Ensures that we are able to learn from each other's perspectives, histories, knowledge, and wisdom. Following this concept alone will eventually reveal our true history as humans. Live each day in the now. Yesterday does not exist anymore, and tomorrow has not happened yet. Do not hold on to the past or worry about the future, but rather remember the lessons learned and apply them moving forward. I am sure by now some are wondering, how would I know if I am brainwashed? Proof, you are not victim of the game. Think about this list. Genuine, self-confident, and empathetically personable, a people's person. Prefers to be doing something productive and meaningful, values their time and energy. May be rebellious, hates authority or any form of oppression, rejects conformity, likes to be unique, and never cares about the latest trends. Interested in subjects that most reject, like witchcraft, ancient societies, conspiracy theories, and the list continues. Sexually empowered, free-spirited, confident, open-minded, and does not have inhibitions. Non-judgmental, and does not waste energy on the affairs of others. Craves knowledge, wisdom, and truth. Extremely intelligent and able to maneuver in any situation with ease. Ambitious, but not materialistic, self-serving, or superficial. Has a never-ending feeling of divine purpose. Talented and or artistic, and indulges in hobbies. Likes to stimulate their mind and body, being a jack of all trades. Always intuitive of the energy or spirit of others. Not easily manipulated, attracted to the spirit of people, and nurtures relationships that matter to them. Prefers authenticity over popularity, and very selective of who they allow around their circle. Loyal, protective, and loves hard, but does not have issues releasing toxic relationships. Spiritual and always on a journey towards ascension. Constantly seeks self-improvement through self-awareness, strives for wholeness of the soul and healing, embraces being a divine spark of the Creator. Now, if you can check off every single one of those bullet points on that list, you are good to go. But I know myself, I had a lot of work to do. I know some were wondering how I got to this place of peace and joy that I was claiming before I shared my research. Well, I first realized that happiness is a choice, and in the grand scheme of things, not even a priority. I choose peace of mind above all in all things experienced, good or bad, rather than depending on a fleeting emotion. Finally realizing who I am and my true purpose here in this life cycle. I am the chaos and confusion that breeds clarity. In chaos and confusion, there is always a need. And once clarity is received, creation is inevitable. Because now there is purpose to create the solution. I told you, I am crazy as hell. But I embrace it, and I make no more apologies. My hope, though, is that in getting to know me better, you now understand that it is okay to be who you are as well. And before I conclude, please allow me this disclaimer. I am not telling anyone to reject religion. How could I? I came into my own understanding by first studying the Bible. Religion was originated from a concept of uniting us with our higher selves. However, it is time to accept that the Bible, among other religious texts, is a Frankenstein, a culmination of ancient texts, doctrines, and hidden esoteric knowledge and wisdom. Allow religion to be a stepping stone towards true spirituality, if needed. I'm simply urging you to stop being sheep and rather become the goats that you actually are. Tap into your inner Capricorn. Study religious doctrines on your own to gain true knowledge, rather than blindly following the teachings of those only wanting to hinder your spiritual growth. I promise that in doing this, you will launch your own spiritual journey. Then share your journey with others, because our testimonies could help or even save another. I realize now that there were lessons to be learned in all of my pain and heartache, much of the repeated only being due to my own choices of remaining in ignorance, instead of just learning my lessons. But without the dramas and traumas of life, there cannot be true elevation, just as diamonds are only created from pressure. These experiences create natural empathy for others, granting the ability to relate to their behaviors, thought patterns, and feelings. None of us are as different as once perceived, because we're all being led by the same basic fears, desires, and brainwashes, having all come from one. Who am I? Well, I know what I am not. I am not the pain or traumas of my past, and I am not my mistakes. I am not what others say I am, nor am I what others want me to be. I am not my job title. I am not my religion. I am not my education, nor am I my political affiliation. I am not my parents. I am not my skin color. I am not my gender, nor am I my sexuality. I am not meant to suffer. I am not a mistake. I am not just sin and flesh. I am not helpless, and I am not a victim. I am spiritual. I am unique. I am purposed. I am divinely created. I am gifted. I am worthy. I am abundantly blessed, and I am here to do remarkable things. I am who I am, the Capricorn.